One of the most shocking and mysterious cases in Canada's criminal history remained unsolved for nearly half a century. Despite many people losing hope of ever learning the truth, the victim's parents never stopped fighting for justice. And just recently, thanks to advancements in forensic science and modern technology, this baffling case was finally cracked. Sharron Prior was born in the winter of 1959 in the picturesque city of Montreal. Her mother, who was born in Great Britain, had immigrated to Canada with her family at a young age and spent her entire life there. It was in Canada that fate brought her together with her future husband, George, who served in the Canadian Army. The young couple fell in love at first sight and soon got married. Shortly after, their firstborn child, Sharron, came into the world. Just a couple of days before the little girl's second birthday, her mother gave birth to two more children, twins named Doreen and Maureen. In 1962, George was transferred to the city of Manitoba for military service, where he moved with his family. Their new home was located in one of the city's older neighborhoods, which was nevertheless considered quite safe and peaceful. Sometime after the move, the couple welcomed another child, a son they named George Jr. Unfortunately, soon after, problems began to arise in the family, and the tension in the relationship reached a critical point. As a result, in 1965, the couple decided to divorce. George continued his military service and was often away, while his ex-wife and 4 children moved into an apartment in the city of Langley, which they were provided through a special assistance program for military families. It was a quiet and cozy place, ideal for raising children. The woman had no idea that even in such peaceful neighborhoods, true monsters in human form could be lurking. From childhood, Sharron was an incredibly kind, caring, and compassionate girl. She was always ready to help those in need. Whether it was a person or a defenseless animal, the girl often picked up stray cats and dogs off the streets, especially those that had suffered from human cruelty or illness. She lovingly cared for them, nursed them back to health, and only then sought new owners for them. Sharron adored animals and dreamed of becoming a veterinarian in the future. In addition, the girl was passionate about sports and creativity. She attended a hockey club, art classes, and even took needlework lessons. It seemed that a wonderful future full of bright events and accomplishments awaited her. Her mother couldn't be more proud of her eldest daughter, who was growing up to be independent, responsible, and sensible beyond her years. Sharron always tried to avoid bad company and trouble, but unfortunately, even this did not save her from a fatal encounter with true evil. In 1975, life was going on as usual for the Prior family. 16-year-old Sharron, like all teenagers, was facing typical problems and difficulties for her age. She loved trendy music and stylish clothes, which her parents did not always approve of. In addition, the girl had started dating a boy named John, who had been in love with her since the 4th grade. He had finally managed to win Sharron's heart, and the young couple began seeing each other. They often hung out with friends and seemed like the perfect match. Seeing their sincere feelings, the girl's parents supported the relationship. According to Sharron's mother, she and her daughter never had any serious arguments. There was always mutual understanding and respect between them. The girl was surrounded by only good people, but even they could not protect her from the terrible tragedy that shattered the life of the entire family. March 29, 1975, began like any ordinary day. Sharron woke up and had breakfast while her mother was out shopping for Easter groceries and gifts. Upon returning home, the woman brought the purchases inside, and her eldest daughter helped put them away. This day was supposed to be special for the whole family. The mother's friends were planning to visit with their son, Stephen, as well as her boyfriend. Sharron spent most of the day painting Easter eggs and preparing for the holiday. Stephen arrived before the other guests and played with the girl's younger brother. After school, Sharron and Stephen were going to stop by the local sports association, which, in addition to sports, also did needlework. The girl was supposed to pick up a special jacket there, which was called Leo, named after one of the organization's founders who had died of leukemia. This jacket was a symbol of membership in the association, but it was not simply handed out. To earn such a reward, children had to prove themselves. For example, by selling lottery tickets. Sharron really wanted to deserve this jacket and managed to sell enough tickets. Therefore, she eagerly and proudly went to the association to collect her prize. But disappointment awaited her. the jacket was not available in her size. Saddened, Sharron had to return home empty-handed with Stephen. However, she did not lose her festive mood and decided to pick up the jacket another time. Upon returning, the girl joined her mother and her boyfriend, Doug, helping them with the final preparations. When all the guests had gathered, a wonderful holiday dinner took place. Afterward, Sharron and her mom hid painted eggs around the house for the younger children to have fun searching for later. Then the girl asked her mother for permission to go to the local Marina Pizzeria, which was a popular hangout spot for teenagers and was located not far from their home. The woman had already allowed her daughter to go there with friends many times before, so this time was no exception. Sharron went to her room to get ready. Around 6 o'clock in the evening, a neighborhood girl stopped by the Prior's house. She sat with Sharron and chatted while the latter was getting dressed to go out. Our story's heroine borrowed one of her mom's sweaters and put on her favorite suede jacket. At 6:30, the girls left the house, but Sharron went to the pizzeria alone. The neighbor changed her mind about accompanying her. The girls said goodbye, and each went their separate way, one home and the other to meet up with friends. A whole group of young people had already gathered at Marina, waiting for Sharron, but for some reason, she did not show up at the appointed time. The teenagers figured the girl had simply decided to take a little walk with her boyfriend, John, so they continued their merry feast, unaware that something bad had happened. At this time, John and a few friends were at home watching a hockey match. When the game ended, the boys also headed to the pizzeria, hoping to find Sharron there, but she never came. John was extremely surprised because he hadn't seen his girlfriend since school and had no idea where she could be. Like the others, he thought that after the match, he would definitely find Sharron at Marina. Her absence alarmed everyone present, as it was completely out of character for the always punctual and responsible girl. While Sharron was away from home, her mother put the younger children to bed and spent the evening in front of the TV. The woman began to worry that her daughter had still not returned, even though she should have been home a long time ago. However, she decided not to panic prematurely, assuming the girl had simply lost track of time in the company of friends or with her boyfriend. The mother remained waiting in the living room so as not to miss the moment when Sharron would finally come home. But the hours passed, and the girl was still nowhere to be seen. Around midnight, the woman could no longer contain her fear, as there was still no word from her daughter. It was awkward to call her friends at such a late hour, so the mother had to wait until morning, periodically glancing out the window in the hope of seeing Sharron at the first light of dawn. The alarmed woman began calling her daughter's acquaintances, hoping to find out where she might be, but neither her friends nor her boyfriend, John, had any idea about the girl's whereabouts. The mother's worst suspicions were confirmed that evening. Sharron had not made it to the pizzeria. The neighbor girl with whom Sharron had left the house confirmed that she had parted ways with Sharron on the street and had not seen her since. A conversation with Mary, Sharron's closest friend, further heightened the anxiety. From her, the mother learned that after 7 o'clock in the evening, an attack had occurred near the pizzeria on a 23-year-old woman named Cheryl Roy. An unknown man had lunged at her with a knife, but luckily, there were people passing by at that moment. Hearing the victim's screams, they scared off the attacker, and he fled in the direction from which Sharron was supposed to come. According to witnesses, it was a tall, dark-haired man with blue eyes and a mustache. He spoke in a quiet, calm voice and was wearing a ski jacket, blue jeans, and pointed-toe shoes. Hearing these details, Sharron's mother was seized by panic. She realized that the place and time of the attack exactly coincided with the route her daughter usually took. The woman immediately went to the police, but the detectives were in no hurry to jump to conclusions. Instead of immediately accusing someone, they decided to launch a large-scale search operation without delay. Hundreds of concerned citizens who learned about the girl's disappearance joined the search. They were given a photo and description of the 16-year-old girl and combed every corner in the hope of finding her. The mother appeared on local television to tell the community about what had happened. She begged anyone with any information to report it to the police and help find her daughter. Unfortunately, the search yielded no results. Several days passed, but no leads on Sharron's whereabouts emerged. The mother continued to believe that the girl would return home safe and sound. The police tried to maintain hope in her, although they themselves understood that after the critical 48 hours, the chances of finding the teenager alive were rapidly dwindling. Sharron had no reason to run away from home, no conflicts with her parents or problems at school. Her boyfriend, John, was a decent young man, and their relationship was filled with love and understanding. He definitely could not have hurt the girl, and in general, Sharron did not have conflicts with anyone and stayed away from bad influences. That is why at the beginning of the investigation, the police had neither suspects nor leads. Attempts to locate the man seen in the area also proved fruitless. The tense silence dragged on, exhausting the missing girl's mother, who continued to hope for a miracle. On the morning of April 1st, around 6 o'clock, the woman woke up and looked out the window. What she saw seemed extremely suspicious to her. A young man came out of the house of Sharron's friend, crossed the street, and took the newspaper left on the doorstep of their home. Gripped by a bad premonition, the mother called out to him, trying to understand what made the guy get up so early and take someone else's newspaper. But instead of answering, he only quickened his pace, hurrying to leave. The woman ran out into the street and caught up with the young man. He tried to hold on to the newspaper, but the distraught mother snatched it from his hands. The guy shouted, begging her not to look, but it was too late. On the front page was a photo of a girl's body found in the snow just a few minutes' drive from their home in the suburbs. The woman was shocked, not only by this terrible news but also by the fact that the police had not informed her, even though they should have. She learned the truth much later than her neighbors, who had read the morning papers. The mother tried to convince herself that the deceased was not Sharron but simply some girl who resembled her. Finally composing herself, she called the police to dispel the chilling suspicion. The detectives replied that they were not yet certain of the victim's identity and invited the woman to come for identification. She was so horrified that she could not bring herself to do it, so she asked her ex-husband to go in her place. The entire neighborhood was in shock as the girl in the photo did indeed bear a strong resemblance to the missing Sharron. Moreover, her clothing exactly matched the description the mother had given to the police. The father immediately recognized his daughter in the deceased, leaving no doubt, the 16-year-old girl was gone. Her body was discovered by a local resident who had learned about the girl's disappearance from the newspapers. When he saw the scene, he immediately realized that he had found Sharron. The man promptly reported the terrible find and the fact that someone had trespassed on his property. He always kept all the doors locked, but on Tuesday, he noticed that the lock was broken, although there were no signs of a break-in, as if the person responsible had used their own key. Even though only the owner had free access to the house, going out to the driveway, the man saw a body. At the same time, nothing was missing from the house. Jack could not understand why someone had left the remains on his property. The police arrived at the scene and began an investigation. Law enforcement officers immediately noted the brutality of the incident. There were numerous traces of harm on the body. The victim was wearing only a suede jacket and a blue sweater, with her jeans found a few meters from her, and her clothing was hanging in a nearby tree. The mouth was taped with a heavily chewed piece of tape tangled in her hair. The girl was clutching it in her hand, apparently trying with her last strength to free herself. Traces in the snow indicated that Sharron had tried to get up, meaning the person responsible had left her to perish while she was still alive. The poor girl simply did not have enough strength to save herself. Law enforcement officers also found other physical evidence at the scene. About 50 feet from the victim, tire tracks remained on the ground. A barely noticeable trail of blood droplets led from this point to the body. Since there were no signs of dragging, the detectives assumed that several people might have been involved. No dirt was found on Sharron herself, her socks, or her shoes, so she had not crawled on her own. Most likely, she was carried out of a car and left in the cold. Not far from the scene lay a man's shirt. The victim's wrists bore traces of being tied up, apparently with this very garment. The find helped establish that the prime suspect was quite tall. Near the gate post, they left another important clue, a clear shoe print. A receipt for the jacket which the unfortunate girl never had a chance to receive was also found there. The results of the forensic examination showed that Sharron's death had occurred just a few hours before the body was discovered. Obviously, She had been held captive from Saturday to Tuesday. There were characteristic marks of strangulation on her neck, and the girl had choked on her own blood. Forensic experts also recorded that her ribs were literally crushed. It appeared as if the perpetrator had been kneeling on the victim's chest. In addition, the poor girl had suffered a severe head injury and internal bleeding. Her body was covered with numerous marks, and her jaw was broken on both sides. The nose was also smashed, and the cheek was torn by her own knocked-out tooth. Hundreds of townspeople came to the local Presbyterian church to say goodbye to Sharron Prior. Her mother could barely stand, paralyzed by grief. The only thing she could think about at that moment was for the person responsible to be caught and punished as soon as possible. 3 blocks away from Sharron's case, Canada had already faced a similar incident against a minor. On July 9, 1974, in a nearby area, 12-year-old Norma O'Brien was brutally attacked. That evening, she had left home intending to play water polo at the pool, but upon arriving, the girl found that it was closed for repairs. Norma turned around and started walking home. She never made it there. That same evening, her parents raised the alarm, reporting their daughter missing. They categorically rejected the possibility of her running away, so the search began immediately. The next day, the girl's body was found in a field near the pool. There were striking parallels between the cases of Norma and Sharron. Both girls were found partially undressed, brutally harmed, and strangled. Moreover, the sites were located within a half-hour drive of each other. This led to the idea that the incidents could have been committed by the same individual, but the investigators had no leads. After the case of Sharron, on June 23, 1975, another girl went missing nearby, 14-year-old Debbie Fisher. She was returning home on a red bicycle but never arrived. The next day, her body was found in the woods. Unlike the previous victims, Debbie had not been attacked in the same manner. The cause of death was a blow to the head with a rock. Soon, a 17-year-old boy was arrested for this case, and he confessed to the deed. Due to his status as a minor, his name and photo were not disclosed. The individual recounted that on that day, around 6:30 in the evening, he was riding home from work on his moped. Suddenly, he spotted Debbie pedaling her bicycle with a bottle of milk in her hand. He scrutinized the girl closely, and a chilling plan took shape in his mind. She regularly visited the police station, hoping for any updates on the case, but each time, she was met with the same disheartening response: no new leads. Months turned into years, and the once vigorous investigation slowed down significantly. The public's interest in the case waned, and media coverage became sporadic. But Sharron's mother never gave up. She tirelessly advocated for her daughter's case, reaching out to anyone who would listen. She even hired private investigators, but they too hit dead ends. Meanwhile, the local community was gripped with fear. Parents were hesitant to let their children out of their sight, and the once vibrant neighborhood became a place of anxiety and suspicion. Rumors spread about who the killer might be, with some residents casting suspicious glances at their own neighbors. The police, though overwhelmed with other cases, continued to revisit Sharron's file from time to time. However, without new evidence, there was little they could do. The case remained cold, a haunting reminder of a tragic loss. As years passed, advances in forensic science offered a glimmer of hope. In the late 1990s, DNA testing became more widely available and increasingly accurate. This new technology had already helped solve numerous cold cases, and Sharron's mother saw this as an opportunity to finally bring her daughter's killer to justice. In 2000, she made a heartfelt plea to the police, urging them to reopen the case and re-examine the evidence using modern DNA techniques. The police agreed, and the evidence that had been collected years ago was sent to a state-of-the-art forensic lab. Weeks passed, and the mother anxiously awaited the results. She hoped that this would be the breakthrough she had been praying for. However, when the results came back, her hopes were dashed. The lab reported that most of the physical evidence had been mishandled or had deteriorated over time, rendering it unusable. The precious DNA evidence that could have identified the killer was gone. Devastated, Sharron's mother felt as though she had lost her daughter all over again. The mishandling of the evidence was a blow not only to her but also to the entire community that had rallied behind her. The police issued a public apology, but it did little to alleviate the pain and frustration felt by the grieving mother. Despite this setback, the mother refused to give up. She continued to advocate for her daughter, keeping the case alive in the public's memory. She worked with victim advocacy groups, pushing for changes in how evidence was handled in future cases. Her relentless pursuit of justice became an inspiration to others who had lost loved ones to violence. As the years went on, new generations of detectives would occasionally revisit Sharron's case, hoping to find a lead that had been missed, but the trail had gone cold, and the killer remained elusive. Sharron's case, like so many others, became a tragic reminder of the limitations of the justice system at that time. In the end, the case of Sharron's murder was never officially solved, the killer was never brought to justice, and her mother never got the closure she so desperately sought. However, Sharron's story continued to resonate, serving as a powerful reminder of the need for vigilance, justice, and compassion in the face of tragedy. The tragic case of Sharron's murder haunted her family and the community for nearly half a century. Despite the police's initial failures and the numerous dead ends, Sharron's mother never gave up on finding justice for her daughter. Through persistence and the advancement of forensic technology, the breakthrough finally came in 2022. DNA analysis linked the crime to Franklin Romine, whose dark past and proximity to the crime scene had eluded investigators for decades. Though Romine had died years earlier, the confirmation brought a sense of closure to Sharron's family. As we've seen today, justice can be elusive, but persistence and advancements in technology can finally bring it to light. Sharron's story is a powerful reminder of the importance of never giving up, even when the odds seem insurmountable. We hope that sharing this story has not only brought attention to the pain endured by Sharron's family but also highlighted the remarkable strides made in solving cold cases. We encourage you to share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive, honoring the victims and supporting the ongoing fight for justice. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Please take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time on our channel.